help women, save lives, and peacefully end abortion where you live.
I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired.
You were serious about that?
Be inspired to change hearts and minds by joining over 1 million volunteers taking part in the global movement happening in your neighborhood.
She says, pray that I can get through this abortion. And I said, oh, no. So she went ahead and went into the abortion clinic. And she just came out. She told us, I'm not going to get the abortion. We just had a baby saved. We had a baby saved in Memphis today. Praise the Lord.
This is the 40 Days for Life podcast with your host, Sean Carney.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the 40 Days for Life podcast. I'm Sean Carney, the president of 40 Days for Life, and your host for this podcast, which is dedicated to helping you end abortion where you live. Happy Thanksgiving! This is the famous, highly anticipated, all-time high-demanded Thanksgiving podcast. This comes out the Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. It is a great week to be an American. They do not celebrate Thanksgiving in a lot of other countries because they're not thankful and they don't acknowledge that God exists, and so they can't thank anyone. Mainly I'm talking about the Brits because they have been attacking us recently on free speech. We will touch on that today. But we're going to talk about things to be grateful for and thankful for as we go into Thanksgiving and give you some substantive talking points because they're coming. Relatives are coming. Your uncle who supports abortion, who is in What to Say When 1 and What to Say When 2, he may be at the airport right now on his way to your house to tell you how evil and rotten and stupid you are, and we will help you overcome that uncle. So somebody who is not rotten or evil or stupid and is extremely grateful ever since he arrived here on the Mayflower is Mr. Steve Carlin, who joins us.
I'm glad to be here. I am thankful to be here, though I was reading on X, formerly Twitter, that some people who are not pro-life are not willing to spend Thanksgiving with their fascist loved ones. So I don't know, maybe he's not at the airport.
And Ramona Trevino is not one of those people. She will spend Thanksgiving with fascists.
Absolutely. I'll spend Thanksgiving with whomever wants to come over.
Let me stop there. So because you're a former Planned Parenthood worker, is it kind of easier because you've just been outed in public? So do you have any relatives that are like, I don't want to talk to her. I think it's shameful that she left?
Probably. Probably.
Not that you're aware, not that you want to name on the 40 Days.
I'm not going to name.
Where do they live? What's their name? What's their social security number? Okay, but they're there.
But they still talk to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have the same.
Yeah.
I have the same.
We just pretend that doesn't exist and go about our business.
Yeah.
You know.
I think also what I have experienced the longer I've been in the pro-life movement, and I think that the books helped. And also there's secular things like where you have a relative that like hates what you do, but they're like, you travel a lot. That's good. You're responsible for an organization. How's business? You know, all that kind of stuff. And you're like, oh, I guess you're just not going to acknowledge that you hate the fact that I do what I do. But they don't bring abortion up to me. Strangers bring abortion up to me. And I guess it's because I do this. Like I wouldn't, I guess, try to argue with like a heart surgeon about cholesterol or whatever. And so they just will avoid it. They hate what I do, but they won't engage in the topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no one talks about it.
Okay.
We just pretend it doesn't exist.
But what are you going to say to you? I mean, you worked there.
Right. I think that's the reason.
So you acknowledge, so you have like this, it's almost like remember the shields at Independence Day where the bullets and the missiles wouldn't, penetrate it? That's what you have. You have like a pro-abortion shield where because those who know you know your history, they're just like,
we are not talking to her. Yeah.
Everybody around the table, it's like, how's work? How's your garden doing, Ramona?
Yeah, right.
However, I'm not convinced you have a shield. Let's get into your relatives.
Yeah, I've never been accused of not having a shield before.
Yeah. I think people approach you and are like, I don't care if you work in the pro-life movement. You're a loser.
Like family members?
Yeah, or friends. You have family members? Are you going to have any Thanksgiving controversy?
No, everybody this year will be on board. If it was a year where we were visiting family who would not be on board, it would be the how's work, how's your garden.
It's generic.
Yeah, without substance.
The funniest, my version of this, of we're not acknowledging reality, which every family has to do. And I'm from a huge Irish family on both sides, so it's like you hear the brushing and it's just sweeping everything under the rug. I'll have a relative like go into this thing and compliment me on like a television interview, on like, you seem very comfortable and you were very confident and you were very well spoken. It's all the generic things. Like I could have been talking about how to get, whatever, fix the economy. So that always cracks me up, and I don't have any discipline on stuff like that. So I'll let it go like, oh, thank you, I appreciate that. But eventually I do, there's like a moral obligation, I guess, of evangelization of like, I'm just not going to sit here and take a bunch of flattery and not acknowledge, so I'll be like, did you know that about the rape victim statistics and abortion? And I thought it was interesting. I don't remember the whole thing, that kind of thing. So I do have to insert to see if we go on offense around here, but see if they like take the bait. Like, can we actually talk about this? Because really, if we hate women and we're restricting healthcare rights, why in the world would you compliment somebody on an interview about that? So
the best compliment that I've ever received or feedback from a family member was, I'll let this individual remain nameless and relationshipless, but just expressing gratitude that I found something to do with my life that I consider important.
That's a big one. You're passionate about that. It's important to find something that you're passionate about. I've gotten that from an unnamed aunt. And it's important that you're really passionate about it, Be careful. Be careful with all that. I've got to be careful with all that. Like I work in the nuclear factory,
Where Homer Simpson has
Homer
like
Simpson.
uranium.
Yeah. I was gonna let you do the Homer Simpson reference, but yeah, it is kind of funny with stuff like that. So I think people can relate. Obviously, on this Thanksgiving podcast, I'll say, I guess, because 2016 was is a different shock wave, and I think still when Trump got elected, people didn't take him seriously. Most of them were actually Republicans in Congress and the Senate, but this is much worse, I think, for the Thanksgiving table. And it's actually very sad. I heard, to his credit, this was before the election. Somebody sent me the clip of J.D. Vance. He's doing like a town hall, and he said, if politics is dividing your family, you need to get away from it. Like, it is not worth losing lifelong friends or certainly family relationships over voting for or against Donald Trump. He wasn't telling them, like, don't vote for him to appease your family, but he's like, that's not worth it. Like, don't bring up politics. Like, these are people that, in theory, and you hope, will be at your funeral or around you on your deathbed. And I do think it's sad that people are like, and I do have a relative in this category, like not coming, can't look at anyone who voted for Trump. And it's just, that's really sad.
Yeah, it's troubling. I saw a video, I think it was yesterday or the day before on X, where this mom was saying that she wasn't going to be at the Thanksgiving table because she was going to be busy getting her daughter an IUD. 17 years old.
Which is exactly what the native and all the Indians and the Pilgrims, they met, and then they got the IUD.
She said, I'm not coming over to your house. You're not going to be here. I'm going to be busy getting my daughter an IUD. Like, oh,
okay, so that's so outrageous.
Yeah.
So what she said that right after the election. Thanksgiving's really late this year, Do you think that's all BS? Like, she's going to go?
It's BS. And but listen to what she's saying, right?
Yeah, but also
Everybody knows you get your kids IUDs for
exactly.
Christmas.
Yeah, she should have waited a few weeks. Yeah, for sure.
I think it's actually Valentine's Day, but we don't need to get into that. So here's my thing that is good. And even though we'll start, I'm sure next week, we'll probably now actually already, I've seen some stuff, but there's like the anti-Christmas crazy people that hate. Oh God, Steve's one of them. You're actually normal in a lot of areas that I didn't think you'd be normal. You're not normal in Christmas, and I don't want to scandalize the listeners.
I've had backhanded compliments before. That was the first backhanded insult I've ever received, and it was really well done.
There's gonna be a lot more. You hate Christmas, and I'm gonna make Christmas really great again. You're not gonna be part of it. God's gonna be very happy with what we do with Christmas. But there's like the Christian anger that the secular world celebrates Christmas but doesn't acknowledge Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. And there's all this like, can't we allow people to, in a maybe little disordered fashion, attempt to celebrate Christmas or acknowledge Christmas? Like I don't really have a problem with it. Of course, we all observe Advent, and it is part of the liturgical year, and it's a huge feast day. And it is a Christian holiday, obviously, but this whole like they're angry that Christmas music is on and it's December 1st. I'm saying that because it's your birthday. I just think that gets way too much energy. However, with all that said, one of the beautiful things about Christmas and Thanksgiving in a secular sense and 4th of July is there's part of you that just is like a little kid again. You remember going to your relatives, you remember all that. And that poor lady that says, no, I'm taking my daughter to get an IUD. Like we can never get away from like being a child at some level. And if you don't do it for the holidays, you're screwed. Am I wrong on that? Like,
no.
Isn't there, even if you're an atheist, you're a liberal, you hate that Trump was elected, all this, you're like, I'm not going to go into Thanksgiving. Yeah, but Uncle Billy, he has a Trump flag and he'll be wearing his MAGA hat and all that. Like, isn't there like a who cares? I'm going to smell mom's pie and, the turkey and all the memories and all that stuff. I just think that all this, like, I'm not participating gives politics way too much credit.
Absolutely. And that shows how it's become a religion. Ramona had her like IUD tweet that she read. I saw a tweet and this lady wrote, she's like, I voted for Trump. My grandmother voted for Harris. And as a result, I will be spending Thanksgiving with my grandmother because neither of us is a bleepity bleep.
Oh, that's awesome. That's very good.
Yeah.
See, that's very good. That's very good.
And that's probably why we don't talk about it, because for us, it's family. Family's first, and that's what's most important. And we can kind of leave our personal views and political views out the door and come in and enjoy family time and just kind of forget about everything that's happening in the world and just embrace our family. So I think that's the positive. I don't know, maybe it's just a more of a Hispanic culture thing. I don't know, but that's just the way it's always been, and that's how I always remember it from the time that I was a child. We never knew each other's political views. We were just enjoying time together.
I do think that's a Hispanic thing and a good one. I do think that, like, particularly white liberals or just white Americans in general, you see it on both sides. There is an America first, Christianity second. I do think that that's a thing. And politics is just everything. It can just fill the vacuum. My hope, which I guess we'll find out in a few days at Thanksgiving, is because we are so divided and it was so heated, everybody just genuinely wants a break.
We're tired, right?
We're tired. And I'm glad Trump got elected, right? All of that, okay? I don't want to talk about it a lot. I know we have to do it for our jobs, but like at Thanksgiving, I've got to focus on my fryer, which we're going to get to in a minute. I've got to focus on
the pumpkin pie.
I talk about Mary Lisa. She gets the fresh cranberries and makes a brown sugar bourbon glaze sauce. I have no interest in eating a cranberry. I don't like cranberry juice. I think cranberries are disgusting. Those cranberries are amazing. And I want that's like death row food. Like, bring me those bourbon glazed cranberries.
I may need the
recipe. Last year somebody asked. I think we put the recipe on the YouTube page as a responsible nonprofit, 40 Days for Life. And so, but we'll get to the cranberries later. But that, if I have to get up and they're like, well, why did Trump get the Catholic vote by 9%? I'm just going to tell the person to get out. Yeah. I don't have that, so this is easy. Full disclosure, like no one will bring up abortion in a negative sense to me on Thanksgiving Day. And we have a ton of people at our house, but it's like you. I think I have the shield also, but no one's coming this year that supports abortion. That's not intentional. That's like, you didn't vote for Donald Trump, you can go to McDonald's. It's not that. It's just the way it worked out this year. So, are you laughing at the redneck Democrat relative impression?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. He's out there, I'm telling you. Okay. Before we get into what we're grateful for, you love, like, when I do the East Texas redneck impersonation.
I do. Well, I'm from Trenton, Texas. I get that every day.
No, it is. Well, I notice stuff happens. And Mary Lisa's from a smaller town in East Texas than I am, but I'll notice something, or no, I won't notice something. And Mary Lisa's like, that was really redneck. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. And she's like, okay, forgot who I married. Yeah, so because I'm just like, no, that's normal. That's so
every day.
It's like every day. And I think I've shared it on the podcast. We were driving to my mom's house, and we were out in the middle of nowhere, East Texas, because we were coming back from Arkansas. We were like in the sticks. And Declan, my 9-year-old, down to the whole bottle of Gatorade in the morning. And we're in the middle of nowhere. And like, I start slowing down. Mary Lisa's like, what are you doing? I'm like, he's going to pee on the side of the road. She's like, he can't do that. I was like, he can, because if he doesn't do it there, he's going to do it in the van. And, but my teenage daughter was like, oh my God. I was like, look, I can pass the empty bottle back, and we can do it that way, or we can pull over. And they're like, he is not peeing in the van. I was like, that's why I'm braking and pulling over, And
it may not be a good option, but it's the least of the bad options.
Yeah. And I may or may not have joined him because we were in the middle of nowhere. It's just one of those things that Mary Lisa's like, I forget, like, you're like kind of white trash.
I just thought that was normal.
See? And people get all like bent out of shape over that. But the people that pee on the side of the road are the ones that elected Donald Trump.
Exactly.
That makes this country great.
I would pay actual money to take an actual class if I could learn to do impressions and voices as well as you can. I love the Trump one. I love that one. You do a great Wisconsin voice.
I do the great. You don't like the code? Dan Miller said that to you. It's not anything I have ever worked on. What will never happen on this podcast is you interviewing my mom about how I impersonated everybody since I was like in kindergarten, including teachers and the principal and all of that. Because it's like the dean of discipline comes in when you're in like the 2nd grade and screams at everybody.
That's awesome.
I start repeating what he said and like get in trouble. So I was always in trouble for impersonating people. And then I guess I was in high school, and my 1st grade teacher recalled a time that I said something. I actually don't remember what it was, but she remembered. And she was little, like a little lady, and her name was Miss Stinchfield. This is what it was. Her name was Miss Stinchfield, so I called her Miss Inchfield because she was short. And she ridiculed me, and I got in trouble, and I had to go like sit in the corner. I'm sure now you'd be arrested for this, right? Because you're actually disciplining a child. So I had to stand in the corner. And she told me in high school, she went in the closet. She acted like she was really upset. She went in the closet and she busted out laughing. So it was like, I was like, that doesn't make it right. She goes, it doesn't, but it was hysterical. She's like, and I told my husband, like, he called me Miss Inchfield. So I don't know if the impersonations have done any good in the world. That's a lie. They've done amazing things actually in our country. So let's do some what we're great. Actually, before we get to that, yes, I'm frying 2 turkeys. I know you want to know. We will have. Last year I did 3, but I want to do 3, but we don't need them.
Okay.
Because a big chunk of Mary Lisa's family is going out of town. So I'm doing the regular Cajun butter fried turkey, and then I'm doing the crazy jalapeno rub.
Texas Pete?
Texas Pete, full bottle, injected, oozing out.
This is the one I referred to last year as the Oppenheimer turkey? Is that?
No, what I'm not doing this year is the Oppenheimer turkey.
Okay.
That's the one getting cut because that was the 3rd like experimental turkey.
Didn't work out?
No, it was fantastic. We just don't need it. And Mary Lisa's not going to go for Oppenheimer over like the regular spicy one. Because the Oppenheimer one, was a lot of crushed red pepper that I stuffed up that bird, and there was stuff everywhere. I sent you a photo of it actually, of the counter. Just look, it looks.
It's
like,
my favorite Thanksgiving Day tradition.
Is the great photo
Waiting for your text, the before and the after. Sometimes you forget the after. I only get the before. I hope this year I get them both.
Okay, I'll send you both. Yeah, the before is like because it's the Texas Pete hot sauce is kind of oozing out, and then you've got this. This jalapeno rub. I think I've mentioned the brand, but I don't know. Hopefully they don't like give money to Planned Parenthood. But I put the rub on there, and you wrap it, and it sits overnight and all that. And then, boy, when you fry
You smoke it or you put it
no,
in the oven?
I
Okay.
fry it.
You fry it.
Fried turkey. Turkey's not good. We've talked about this. It's super good for you, right? It's just loaded with lean protein. But nobody's like, it's not like February 22nd, and you're like, man, why don't we go out and just crush some turkey? It'd be awesome, right? So smoked turkey to me, besides like some of the good barbecue place, Rudy's does a great job. I love the smoked turkey, but so easy to mess up, so easy to dry out, the same as the oven. And people will be like, no, my grandma's oven baked turkey is awesome. It sucks. It's just nobody wants to say it. It's like what's a great scene in Christmas Vacation. It's just a little dry.
Turkey's like Star Wars. Everybody pretends to like it.
But if you fry turkey, it changes how you view the
Changes
world.
the game. Yeah.
Well, I'd make an exception for your turkey. I'm not a turkey guy. I refer to it every year as a trash bird, and I think the only reason it's served for the holidays is because it's easy to make in bulk.
Which is true, and it's cheap. The Thanksgiving meal is actually cheap, right? It's a bunch of carbs and turkey, and that's it. But you are now culpable of, I think, committing a non-fried turkey sin, in that we've talked about this. You have access to all of the knowledge I've given you about fried turkey, how easy it is. You're just like somebody who's like an atheist and has read everything and knows that God exists. You know that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. You know the scriptures. You're like borderline like Jordan Peterson right now. You're just like won't convert, right? So in your case, of course, it's to fried turkey.
So
why aren't you frying turkey at your house?
isn't it a terrible mess and dangerous and stuff like
No,
that?
that is the fried turkey myth.
Okay.
You've been watching CNN.
I thought you almost caught the backyard on fire or something with frying a turkey. Was that not?
No.
No? That wasn't
I've
you?
been accused of that. Everybody does it. In fact, I'm a little overconfident in that last year I did it in the backyard because my brother-in-law smoked a ham. And we just ended up in the backyard. And but most of the times we do it in the front yard. In the front yard, I'm actually on my front porch. Now, if we want to get into
he's showing off on the front porch.
If we want to get into the redneck thing, and this is like Mary Lisa was like, you're never doing that ever again. But she didn't notice because she's inside cooking. So what I do, because the front porch, because when you open the fryer, the grease will kind of pop out. So it'll stain your porch. So I'm like, well, what do we like not care about? And I find like straight out of the late 80s, nasty, dirty, old beach towels in like the corner of our garage with like leaves and stuff on. So I shake those out and I spread them out and I set the fryer on top of that, right? So it's like pink and blue. They're beach towels and they're all faded. They look, I don't know where we even got them, right? And so she came out one year and she's like, people are walking in our neighborhood and they see this because it's like beach towels and then like, you know, the turkey fryer and me and my brother-in-law like drinking Shiner Bock.
This is a Morgan Wallen song, isn't it?
Oh, it's 100% Morgan Wallen. And she like comes out and she's like, we have like neighbors and stuff, you know, and people are, you know, some priest arrives for Thanksgiving. Hey, how y'all doing? And like looks at all the beach towels and the grease, you know, there's grease on them and everything. And it's like, am I going to eat the thing that comes out of that? So I get a kick out of that, but I'm really overconfident because I'm next to the house.
Wow.
It could burn the whole house down.
You
That's
just told me it
confidence.
wasn't dangerous, and now you said it could
It's
burn the whole
not
house.
dangerous.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I did it. I was like, the fryer was 7 feet from my home.
Here,
And there's it's a covered porch.
Here's my situation. Thanksgiving is the one holiday that we throw the bone to our families. We stay home for Easter. We stay home for Christmas. We'll go visit alternating families on Thanksgiving. And so we eat what we're served. But this year, I'm very curious because this year is my family's year. We're going to my parents' house. And 2 years ago, my dad makes a turkey. He does the same job with a turkey that everybody who's not making an Oppenheimer turkeys does. It's just a turkey. And my kids, my fussy little kids, 2 years old, 4 years old, they just don't want it. They're throwing a fit. It's embarrassing. And my dad, who never says a word about anything, he's just like, I just looked at their plates and they wouldn't eat it. And they were right to because it sucked. And I don't know if I'm going to do turkey again for Thanksgiving. And so we don't really know whether we're having turkey or whether Dad's just going to make steak.
Let's cover this real quick. I'm against that.
Okay.
And even though you've criticized the turkey and we've criticized turkey, is just you have to eat Thanksgiving food on Thanksgiving as an American. Don't
agree.
you? See? And
I'm not a turkey fan either, but
if
we
you
have to have
invited
turkey.
me to your house on Thanksgiving, I'd be like, that would be my biggest temptation because I'm like, this is the one time I go to Ramona's house. I want all of her aunts and relatives to make a bunch of Mexican food. But still philosophically, I would have the discipline to be like, no, we're going to have Thanksgiving food.
Yeah.
But so, we know people and they're like, we did Chinese food. Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
and I'm
no.
like, you're a communist. You need to leave the country.
I know folks who want tamales for Thanksgiving.
I would rather you vote for Kamala Harris than eat pizza on Thanksgiving.
I don't know. Plus, I feel like you'd have a little more credibility on this topic, but there's other places where you're an iconoclast with food. Like you don't do breakfast food, you'll have a burrito or something like that. And so I feel like we can be relativists on what we have for dinner on Thanksgiving.
So what's your substitute for the turkey?
Yeah.
Anything else that's good. Have a steak,
if you were in charge and people were like, hey, if you had full authority, would you not have turkey and all that on Thanksgiving?
Correct.
The dressing?
I don't like anything that is served on Thanksgiving.
That's terrible. I love the dressing.
The dressing's the best.
It's the best.
That's the best.
Well, that's really troubling.
I'm troubled by that, Steve. I feel sorry for you right now.
We do all
Maybe he
this.
hasn't had.
Thus, he hates Christmas. That's two things.
So that's really disappointing. Okay. Is macaroni and cheese a Thanksgiving item? That's controversial.
Do I think it should be allowed or
No. Do you think when you think of Thanksgiving, is mac and cheese one of the required things? That's part of it.
I can say I have never heard of somebody eating mac and cheese for Thanksgiving.
What about you?
Yes.
It is.
Homemade from scratch.
Yeah. I don't think it's part of the thing. This is a pop culture thing. People are asked. I don't think it is. I think it's a northern thing because they don't have real food, so they just add macaroni and cheese to Thanksgiving dinner. But it's pretty much 50-50. I don't think that it is, but it shows up, and I'm totally happy with it, right? Another carb, I'll take it. Great.
Broccoli rice casserole is another staple.
For sure.
It's a must.
The green bean casserole, all of this stuff. Okay. What we are grateful for.
We're grateful for food.
We're grateful for food. All right. So, along with the uncle at Thanksgiving, by the way, we have a Black Friday sale. So go to 40 Days. If you want, this is actually a great tactic. You don't have to talk about abortion. You can just wear 40 Days for Life gear at Thanksgiving, even though we just said this is the time not to get in arguments. What do you think of my shirt?
It may be all we
Uncle
own.
Bill? Huh?
It may be all we own. Our whole closet's full of 40 Days for Life gear, so we don't have any other choice. That's my excuse.
I tell you, you want to stir the pot, you wear the 40 Days for Life camo hoodie at Thanksgiving table and just act normal, you know. Okay, 25,000 babies saved. Milestone. That's what we're grateful for.
We've been looking forward to this one for a while. We
Yes.
knew it was going to happen this campaign. It did happen this past campaign, and I don't know. To me, it's just roundest number milestone we've had since 10,000, which I remember back in 2015, but 15,000 more since then. And I think one of my favorite parts about it, which has no substance to it, but number 25,000 and 25,001 were a set of twins in the Twin Cities with Brian and Brian, our great iconic leaders. Can't beat it.
A great stat. No, it's just a great stat. Yeah, because it keeps counting. I think the other thing that's cool about hitting 10,000, because that was a big deal. They're obviously every baby saved is a miracle. But there's something about these milestones. The difference between 10,000 and 25,000 is the 365 campaigns that go year round, like contributing to that.
Yeah.
We didn't have that.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because in some cases, families handle these saved babies in different ways, right? In some cases, it's like, gosh, I was tempted. I don't want my kids to know. And in other cases, they're like, hey, I almost had an abortion, and they share it with their kids as they grow up. Like, but these people helped you. These people helped me. We did it. Like triumphant type of thing. And I don't know which one of those babies is the milestone baby, but if they're open about it in that family, maybe they can debate over it one day. Which one? I was 25,000. No, I was.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and I think that if abortion does come up at Thanksgiving, right? Not everybody has their shield. To focus on that, to get away from the election, we cover that a lot in What to Say When Won. Like, if they go political, there's a way to do it, but really stay away from politics. Trump to these people is toxic. The Republicans are toxic. The whole political climate in America is toxic. So don't get into that. Get into abortion. Get into, say, I follow a group called 40 Days for Life where I participate. They've saved 25,000 babies. It's pretty cool. Like, keep it positive.
Only the fringe, like 0.01% of abortion supporters will hear about a story of a set of twins saved or any baby saved and say, well, I don't think that should have happened.
That's a great point. Like, sharing good news with joy in a non-confrontational way is always a winner.
Because we've seen this play out on the sidewalks, right? You get the people who come up, they're passersby, and they're kind of critical, and the pro-lifers share a story. They go, I don't know, like, we helped this mom. She chose life. Her baby's in kindergarten now. Even the people who are like, well, I think there's a right to choose, but like, well, good on you. Like, you guys did what you said you did. You helped them. They're happy. They're doing well. And almost everybody, like, unless you have like Alexis McGill Johnson at Thanksgiving, the people are probably going to like that story.
She's the CEO of Planned Parenthood, in case the listeners have forgotten. She's welcome to my house at Thanksgiving. I don't know if she'll come. I don't think she shaved her head. Yet. Okay, with that said, obviously something that we are grateful for are the pro-life victories in the election. We're now, a couple of weeks past. Things are starting to kind of calm down. This may not age well as we record this, but it is something to be grateful for and not something to discuss at Thanksgiving or brag about. I think that a lot of Thanksgiving, because all we do is talk about the people shaving their heads. They're not going to Thanksgiving. They're going to get an IUD. They're leaving the country. All that. The truth of the matter is, and frankly, when you look at the election results, a lot of Thanksgivings are going to be absolutely glorious and big celebrations, because I do think that families agree more than they disagree, and people are just going to be like, "This is so edifying." And you don't have to be a huge Trump or a Republican. You can just be like, I don't know, the last 4 years weren't very good on the economy and on just a lot of unknowns, certainly the weaponization of the DOJ. And I think a lot of people are going to be super, super happy at Thanksgiving.
I agree. And I think, especially in the states where the amendments were defeated.
Yes.
That just brings us into the new year with a lot of hope. I know in Florida it was such a huge victory, and I know if I were a Floridian right now, I'd be celebrating hardcore Thanksgiving, right? Like, cheers to everybody.
No, and that's just, we said it would get worse before it gets better, and yes, we lost 7 of the 10. We only won 3, but we were winless up until this point in post Roe. So it doesn't stop the bleeding. It doesn't, we're winning now. At these state measures, we're not. But it does slow down the bleeding, and it shows, hey, I'll give you a movie analogy. When Rocky is getting obliterated by Drago, and he finally gets a punch out and Drago starts to bleed. That's what happened on Election Day with these referendas. And then the trainer, what's his name? He's so awesome. My kids love him, but he's like, he's not a machine, he's just a man, because he's bleeding. It's awesome. And you're just like, let's go, baby. And that's where we are. So we're still like getting killed by the Russian, Drago, who is obviously the pro-abortion movement is Drago. So we're still we're not in good shape, but we gotta punch across.
It's something to build upon. It's like every great story has the turning point. You never see like the great movie or the great sports story where you're just like winning the whole time. There always has to be the comeback. And I want to say one more thing just about Florida in particular, because I think we look at it as great news for the people of Florida, and it is. But this is also good news for the abortion vulnerable moms and babies and the pro-lifers in states near Florida. Because if you're in Georgia now it's not just drive to Florida. If you're in Alabama, it's not just drive to Florida. We're seeing, you've always talked, Sean, about if you can have an abortion-free community, you can have an abortion-free state, you can have an abortion-free region, and sort of the bigger that footprint of pro-life states goes, it affects the people who are, okay, maybe I would have driven 2 hours from Georgia, but I'm not going to drive, 6 hours to whatever, Carolina.
I'd never thought about that. That's really interesting because that's a huge block now. That's a huge block.
Yeah.
It's basically the Southeastern Conference.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. What is, what's North Carolina's situation? Do they have any limits on abortion? That state always gets kind of lost.
I think there's some limits there, but it's not. It's nothing substantial. It's not like a heartbeat bill or something like that.
You know what they do have, actually, as my memory is triggered, is they have like what Texas did. It's not as much money, but they have around $80 million allocated for single moms who choose life. I think Texas is $150 million. Last time I checked, it probably is more now. But just this beautiful program that Democrats and Republicans get behind. And it obviously annihilates the you don't care about women and all that. But you're just not going to find a Democrat. That was really got good bipartisan support in Texas because you're just not going to find a Democrat, thankfully, who is going to say, I will not give a single mother tax dollars. And if we're going to give $750 million to Planned Parenthood, which we've talked about Trump defunding them in the last podcast, we can support these moms. And North Carolina does do that. I'm not familiar, off the top of my head with but because if we got them, that would be, then the cutoff would be like right when you get into Virginia.
Yeah, it's a weird state. They've tended to elect Republicans to their legislature and then Democrat governors. So we'll see.
Well, and it's, Trump, I think handedly looking back, won North Carolina. I do think that the hurricane had a lot to do with that because it hit very liberal parts that he was able to make some ground on. He didn't win some of those counties, but he certainly got more votes than he would have, than he did in the previous two times. It is a weird state politically, but it's not North Carolina's fault. I mean, it's a southern state, obviously, but they have had so many people move there and retire. And I know Florida has that also, but it's just a different demographic. And it's odd. North Carolina still has this man, there's a lot of East Coasters here, which is fine. I love East Coasters, right? But it's just different. It is like night and day going from North Carolina to South Carolina, So anyways, okay. The closed abortion facilities, and this is what's beautiful, and we have said it, and it didn't really matter who won the election. It doesn't matter if you're in California or Tennessee or South Carolina. We continue to close abortion facilities in these pro-abortion areas.
There have been 11 this year, 11 closures, and a lot of them in the pro-abortion areas. Reno, Nevada.
Yeah. Gosh, that one. They all need to close. That guy was a different breed of cat.
Yeah.
That abortionist. He was nuts.
Manchester, England. Fredericton, New Brunswick. We had some in New York State. We had Ohio after they put abortion in their constitution. And this is something we haven't talked about much, but one of the closures this past campaign that we learned of was Chicago, which makes Chicago one of the 4 cities in the world that have seen 3 different abortion facilities close after a 40 Days for Life campaign. Chicago, Obama's Chicago, where, in so many communities, Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry, they're kind of in the margins. They may or may not have a sign up because they don't want attention. Chicago, you've got billboards up, Chicagoland's #1 abortion provider, and yet we've seen 3 close there.
It's phenomenal.
Here's what's good about that, and this is very unique to the post-Roe America. So everybody's going crazy and shaving their heads and talking about how evil these pro-life states are and how great the pro-abortion states are. And certainly for the workers, I want to ask you about this. What happens is stuff like that, they don't think exists. They don't think that abortion facilities close in New York because it's the safe haven and women have to travel there and they probably need more employees than ever. They don't acknowledge or recognize that abortion facilities close in Chicago. So this is like where 40 Days for Life is so effective under the radar. Like, we're winning in some of these areas and nobody acknowledges it, and we want to keep it that way. But for the workers, it's kind of like, is there a little bit like you put your head down, like, we don't really want to tell anybody that we closed an abortion facility in Chicago because everybody thinks that we're like saving the earth because we still do abortions and the evil South doesn't?
I would imagine so. And I think it's also a little bit of embarrassment too,
Yeah.
to have even said that you worked there to begin with. And then for them to close, you're not going to acknowledge why you're closing. And I think a lot of times the employees probably don't even know,
Yeah.
They don't know the reason behind it.
They don't know the reason behind it. Yeah. And I do think that that's like a real, it's certainly a morale problem, but it's great for us. Like, we can go in and they can, because they're so focused on how bad the pro-life states are and how, oh my gosh, Roe was overturned, they're sort of neglecting their base, which is these blue states. And, Newsom, if he's running around and he's saying, we are an abortion sanctuary state, whatever that means, as creepy as that sounds, he's just assuming all this stuff behind him is working properly, and we have, abortion clinics doing record number of abortions, and it's all great. And that's not happening.
Something I think we should address on this Thanksgiving podcast is every time we celebrate the closures, we get a little bit of feedback like, well, isn't it all the mail order abortions? Is this really a victory when you can, get an abortion at Walgreens now, or are they just shifting? And I think we need to be thankful for these because, first of all, like, there's still surgical abortion. Second of all, these places need to close. Third of all, the lower the availability is, the lower the demand will be. And fourth, like, every Planned Parenthood or abortion facility that closes, it's not just the lack of abortion in the community. It also sort of drives you've got less Planned Parenthood educators that are in your schools. They're not having their presence at the Chamber of Commerce. It just is further marginalizing the abortion industry in a community when a facility closes. We're not naive. We recognize that you can get an abortion if you really want an abortion, but there are definitely less abortions when these places close.
Isn't it true, too? For Planned Parenthood, it's still brick and mortar. That's what drives it, and that's why they're so stubborn to close.
Yeah, and to add to that, too, Steve, thinking about just like not being so narrow-minded and have the tunnel vision on abortion, but also to consider how many young girls are no longer going in for birth control. Oh. And how we're continuing to funnel those young girls into abusive relationships and continuously being objectified by the abortion industry and, perpetuating the same cycle. And I think from my experience having worked in a non-abortion facility, that's how I look at it. Obviously people are going to argue, well, where are women going to get their pap smears and where are they going to get this and that? There's other places. There are other affordable, healthcare centers who can offer those things without having this contributing to this, bottom line number for Planned Parenthood. Yeah. So I think it's a win-win whenever these places close down.
We have been talking a lot about the closures in blue states because it's something that gives us hope. But something that we're keeping a close eye on is how long are these red state Planned Parenthoods going to be able to afford to stay open? They kind of like put all their eggs in the past election. Okay, maybe we'll get the new president or the new Supreme Court justice or the new whatever, and they'll come in and save the day at the end. And help is not on the way for Planned Parenthood. And we're beginning, I think, to see perhaps a wave of red state closures. Mobile, Alabama is the most recent abortion facility that is closed. The great pro-lifers there. We had a longtime leader named May. She passed away. Her daughter took the campaign on. Yes. And now that facility is closed. And may they follow in Texas and Alabama, other locations, and all of the pro-life states.
Boy, the folks in Mobile are great. That's a long time. I think I've been to that vigil at least three times, maybe four, and it's just such an, they're next to Florida, obviously, and so it was kind of a weird location where they got more business than they should have, being in Mobile, Alabama, famously known as the Chuck E. Cheese Planned Parenthood. It was across the street from Chuck E. Cheese, and I guess one of America's wealthiest rodents. But Chucky, but the Chuck E. Cheese was super pro-life and friendly. So they let him park there.
Awesome.
I parked all my rental cars there. It was just funny because I'm like, can we park at Chuck E. Cheese? And they're like, yeah, they're pro-life. They love children. I was like, oh, that's a good point. Yeah. So that's just a great. Those are great examples. We should have that in Texas. We should see them dump a lot of real estate in theory, and that's why. Yes, the abortion pills are a problem, but people are putting too much emphasis on it, and I think it's smart. I follow Planned Parenthood. I watch what they do and why they do it, and they are not closing a lot of these places in red states, and there's a reason for that because brick and mortar is still very profitable. I think certainly the big one in Houston and stuff like that, where they own the property, they're going to make a fortune when they sell, but it's not like they have a lot of overhead. They fired a lot of people, and then they just basically you got to pay the electricity. They own the buildings. They're not paying real estate taxes because they're a nonprofit, and so they're just being stubborn and keeping these things open. And
if they get defunded, which there's no excuse not to at this point.
Well, we have praised politicians and Republicans and Trump and all that, and you will hear some sharp criticisms if those idiots don't do it.
Yeah, because
I'm already getting wound up about it.
Last time there were 51 Republican senators and 2 of them were pro-abortion, so they could only get to 49. This time they've got 53. They could lose even one more beyond the pro-abortion Republicans and still defund it. So no excuses. But if that happens, I don't know that people are thinking of it this way. I think the defunding of Planned Parenthood would be an event similar in terms of how many lives it saves and what the impact on local communities is. I think that would be a similar scale event to Roe being overturned. I think it's that big of a deal.
I think it's bigger because I think Roe being overturned is like saying, oh no, this may be a really bad Sean analogy, but I don't know, whatever. You can't have drive-thrus. America is a fat country. You can't have drive-thrus. So all the McDonald's and Chick-fil-A's and Taco Bells adjust. The defunding of Planned Parenthood is saying you can't serve fast food, whereas just they close. They cannot survive. It would be seismic if they got defunded. And most people are like, yeah, but they're worth $100 billion. And they're not. This is roughly on any given budget year, 1/3 of their income. And it's going to be awesome because what we'll see is how superficial all of these abortion as healthcare people are, including politicians, because they get defunded. They're going to run to Newsom. They're going to run to all these governors and say, we need money. And more likely they're going to say, no, we don't have it. Or they'll fund them. But I don't think they're going to fund them like the feds do. I just think you would really see a lot of Planned Parenthoods close. And this is the whole point of 40 Days for Life is it's market driven. It doesn't matter. And I've said it before, and I said it to Kathy Fork, our wonderful leader in Missouri, and all the great pro-lifers in Missouri. The Missouri loss is devastating because Missouri is a great state. It's got a lot of faithful Catholics. It's got a lot of faithful evangelicals. It's very pro-life, and they lost, right? And my response is it's like disappointing on that front. It doesn't change anything. They have one abortion facility because 40 Days for Life closed all the other ones. So you just continue to focus on St. Louis. And you pointed out, even in St. Louis, they're actually referring most of the people to Illinois. So it's kind of like where do we actually stand, even though the morale may be high or low? And the defunding of Planned Parenthood, it's just hard to make that up. And they have gotten fat and happy. They've done a great job, unfortunately, getting in with the feds and getting all this money. But I think it's bigger than the overturning of Roe because Planned Parenthood can adjust to that. They can't adjust to this quick enough.
They'll raise a ton of money, but what we've seen since Roe was overturned is and donations are pouring into Planned Parenthood. It doesn't last. It doesn't last.
It doesn't. And this is where, thank God, and it's because it is life and death and because of our belief in God, the pro-life donor is 10 times more faithful than the pro-abortion donor.
Absolutely.
And just in general, Christians in this country are extremely generous. Those who are super pro-life and aren't, we're the most generous country in the world. And just, it is life and death. It is the greatest, moral crisis of our generation. And, they give. The Planned Parenthood money never lasts. If Cecile Richards can raise all that money when Trump first got elected, Donald Trump's evil, he's Hitler, he hates women, great. I think she hit 88 million or something. It was like a huge skyrocket thing for them, raising a lot of money. It faded, and then she left.
For most of them, it's virtue signaling. They just do it just to sound like they support the cause, and then that's it. They go away.
Just in fun, we all have 40 Days for Life has to fundraise, but just in fundraising 101, that's hard to do. And I do feel bad for not them, but like there's a lot of Christian ministries that we support, and like you just see like, dang, they get like a bump and then they go down and all that. And the consistency is very important for all nonprofits. And Planned Parenthood's never had that. They always have these like the virtue signaling, the rows overturned, you go up, and then people like forget about you. One of the huge advantages of 40 Days for Life is we have a very wide donor base. We don't have a ton of like major donors, but we have a lot of small donors, and we have a lot of monthly donors because we're in the community and people feel connected to it and they participate in it. And, so for a national group, we actually have a lot of monthly donors for being a national organization. And that's really, so we have this consistency. And if you don't have that and you just, depend on Trump saying something like, we're going to lock women up in tomorrow, which they would love for him to say, yeah, you'll get a spike and then 2 months later it's gone. That's hard, especially when Alexis McGill Johnson is your leader, because I don't think she's very competent.
No.
Well, and they depend on the government to do it for them, right? The laws and all of that. They're not like our pro-lifers who are convicted and they're not going to fall off after a week or two of donations. You know what I mean? Like this is something that, if you're pro-life, it's a conviction and it's part of your faith. And so you will always support an organization that's going to be combating this grave evil, right? And so if you're a pro-abort, it's kind of like you depend, a lot of times you don't even believe in God, so you yourself are your own God, or the government's your God. And so you rely and depend on them to fix this for you. And for pro-lifers, we're not relying on the government to fix anything for us. It's like you said, in Missouri, you lose, but nothing changes. We keep going out and doing what we need to do. And I think that's the kind of the contrast that we see.
Yeah. We will talk a lot about defunding Planned Parenthood. I know we addressed it last podcast, and we addressed it on the webcast. If you haven't watched the webcast, go watch it. Our match ends today, actually, the day that this podcast comes out. So if you want to contribute to 40 Days for Life today, speaking of fundraising, we never fundraise on the podcast. We can change that. So you can give, and your donation will be matched if you give on
40daysforlife.com/donate.
/donate. There we go. Tuesday, November the 26th is when the match ends. So hurry up.
If you listen after the match, you can still support.
You can still send something in. Okay, some quick stats for pro-abortion angry uncle sitting next to you on Thanksgiving. Pregnancy help centers, which outnumber abortion providers 5-1, are busier than ever. So here we go. From 2019 to 2022, they saw a 12% increase in ultrasounds. By the way, their ultrasounds are free. Planned Parenthood charges, which is stupid. I don't want them to change that, but they should offer them for free. 41% increase in women and men taking prenatal and parenting education classes. That's just so positive.
It sounds to me like kids that aren't going to end up in an abusive foster system, right? Every baby who's not aborted is going to be abused in foster care, is what I'm told.
No. Well, that's part of it. My favorite is the media guy who, when Roe was overturned, said, "We will just round up." Not a good phrase, really.
No.
Post-Hitler era. "We will round up all of the unwanted children and dump them at Kavanaugh's house, and he can raise them." So there we go. I think they threw in Alito, too. They're going to take some of the kids and dump them at Alito's house.
Why not Clarence Thomas?
They don't like him. He's in an interracial marriage and they're racist. Okay. Abortion pill reversal up 43% since 2020. Boom. Talk about, I know we've done episodes on that, but it's just awesome. It's a miracle. Dr. Delgado, who invented it, is a saint, and it's awesome. So abortion pill reversal up 43%. California, suing heartbeat. I hope they sue us. I've said it a lot. Matt's like, I like that you say that, but stop saying it. But I hope they sue us. You can't even advertise abortion pill reversal. You can't acknowledge that it exists. Talk about the Gestapo. And that's why they're going to lose that lawsuit, and they'd lose the one against us. We just line up all the kids, and you have the documentation. The mom's like, I took abortion pill reversal, and Billy exists. No, he doesn't. Okay.
And the fake clinics, they're misleading women. But there's the good data we have, courtesy of the Charlotte Lozier Institute, shows 97% customer satisfaction. Tell me a place that you can think of any, like, no matter what we love. If we had like the Texas Pete hot sauce company, like, they probably don't have 97% customer satisfaction. That's a tremendous number. You can't even get 97% of people to agree that the world is round.
Texas Pete has it, but other than that, a lot of people don't have that. Maybe Rudy's.
I knew that was coming.
A lot of people.
Everybody, 97%. That sauce is unbelievable at Rudy's. I think it's all the pepper. I don't know. It's really good.
Okay. Here's the other thing. What to Say When To is a national bestseller. How obnoxious is this on Thanksgiving? You know what you should be grateful for at your Thanksgiving table? Sean and Steve's best-selling book. That is what you should be thankful for. Actually, you will be thankful for it when everything's going well. Everybody's eating the potatoes and the dressing and complimenting grandma on her new hair, and you're eating, hopefully, your fried turkey and all of that, and then you just, is it tryptophan?
Yes.
Start to get sleepy, and people, they get a little off guard. Maybe he had one too many glasses of wine, and then you get the uncle, and he leans back. He's like, I just don't think this country's headed in the right direction with women being locked up for having abortions. Whew! You will want to have read What to Say When To at that moment. Okay. This isn't the last one that we're supposed to be grateful for. We'll wrap this up. The abortion industry talking points are not going well at all.
No, this is why it's been so absurd. We hear like the women denied the life-saving abortion. That sounds bad, right? So the woman died? No. So the woman got an abortion? Also no. Or all these cases where they're like alleging that this woman died because of lack of access to abortion, when really it was she took the abortion pill and that killed her, or it wasn't an
tragic.
Yeah, right? Or it wasn't an abortion in the
Right.
first place. But what I'm saying here is, if there was actually a scenario in which a woman was dying from lack of abortion access, they would be telling that story rather than fabricating stories that have nothing to do with life-saving abortions, because they don't exist.
I'm going to take it to the next level so that people that disagree with us completely write me off as a sane person. But I have observed this, and this is now my personal belief, is that the tone and the enthusiasm and the way that this is said, that this woman died, it comes off to me as if they want women to die so that they can validate their talking point.
Yep.
It's really, and you see this with other causes, right? Like, we were at a point where, like, I think Al Gore actually wants an ice age. Like, I think he wants us to all die so he can, like, put his arm up to the glacier and be like, see, I told you. And it's just odd. It's odd to want a woman to die from lack of access to abortion. What's frustrating is that it doesn't happen, and you really, really want it.
Yeah.
So
no one's been investigated for miscarriage. And what happened to all the CEO-funded abortions that were going to take place? Remember that from a couple years ago? Every company in the world is going to be paying paid abortion leave. You haven't heard one story about it?
they don't do it. We called that. That was all posturing. What did you say?
Virtue signaling.
Virtue signaling. And they all did it. And then they go to their president of HR at Amazon or any of these other companies, and he's like, hey, we can't do that because we'll get sued. And the CEO's like, I was high when I said that. Talladega Nights. Like, we're not going to pay, because you can't pay for Jennifer's abortion travel and not pay for Sally's breast cancer, treatment and travel. And so you're literally saying we give a special benefit to these people. Well, what about the mom who's like, oh, we were infertile and finally I'm pregnant, but I got to go in. It's a very delicate pregnancy center. I need more time off. I got to travel. So you want the baby or are you traveling for an abortion? No, I'm traveling to keep the baby. Yeah, no, we don't offer that benefit. It was just never going to happen. It's total HR nightmare.
Speaking of these talking points that haven't aged well, I haven't checked the news lately. Is interracial marriage banned or not yet?
Not yet.
Not yet? Has anybody suggested it?
Well, no, I hope it's not because I'm from an Irish family and Mary Lisa's from a German family. And so would that be interracial?
I
They
think
both like beer, both countries.
a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a big part, these talking points aging poorly. I think this is a big part of why abortion did not drive the 2024 election the way the Democrats and Kamala Harris hoped that it would. Because people are like, you guys warned about the sky falling and the sky didn't fall.
Did you hear the comedian say that Trump's not going to ban interracial marriages because Melania's white and he's orange? Great. Okay. All right. The states where pro-life protections remain in place. Okay. So we hear about the states that voted to enshrine abortion in their constitutions, but we don't, all these babies remain protected in a lot of states. Texas alone. I have heard multiple estimates. The highest is over 150,000 babies since we got the heartbeat bill.
Oh, my goodness.
So that would have been 2021. 150,000 people living instead of being killed is good. I just think we have to say
Definitely
that.
something to be thankful for.
Georgia's heartbeat bill was blocked. Take that! This happens all the time. The people spoke. The next day they reinstated it. It's just stupid judges.
Which was with haste, because a lot of times, like, oh shoot, this is going to take weeks or months before this works its way back to was it the Georgia Supreme Court? I think just like next day, like,
Yeah.
no, we're not doing this.
No riots, no anger, no more women dying in the streets. It's just you just go back to it. Okay. We already talked about this, but the U.S. South is this huge region where abortion is largely unavailable. This is another what to say when to talking point because your uncle at Thanksgiving will say, I know, just like they were in the 1850s and 60s. And you're like, okay, so we're slave owners again, but we're gaining more freedom in recognizing the humanity of more people. The problem with the slave South was that they were removing freedom and removing the humanity of some people. But no, we're slave owners because we force women to birth children. And we're giving this away now. And what to say when too, we're to say, well, so on January 21st, 1973, the day before we got Roe v. Wade, were women commonly referred to as slaves because abortion was illegal. And they're like, no. I like these fun talking points. You know what? If you have pro-abortion relatives, just forget what I said. I do want to talk about abortion on Thanksgiving. I do want people to look at my creepy beach towels and make, condescending comments. And I want them, I want to have a disruptive Thanksgiving. I may just start an abortion argument with a relative I like who supports me.
Just for fun.
Yes. I'm just too wound up. So I take it all back. Send your pro-abortion relatives to Sean's house. I want to see him, I tell you. Okay. A record year. This is the last thing, we promise. We had the largest campaigns ever. First time we ever crossed 700 cities. It's amazing. Largest 40 Days for Life 365. And those are part of our post-Roe plan because that's detrimental. We're out there every business hour throughout the entire year. Awesome. Perfect for post-Roe America. Perfect for your most pro-abortion states. And then, of course, as we mentioned before, the 25,000 babies saved.
Thanks be to God. Good year.
It's a great year. We're very, very grateful. Be sure to check out the store. We do have a Black Friday sale throughout this weekend. I think that's typically our best sale of the year. So get your gear. We have this cool quarter zip. It's awesome. It feels very comfortable. And so you can get that. You can get a bunch of our new gear. Get some camo. Got some cool new camo stuff. We have like a camo windbreaker that's awesome. And then we have the camo hoodie if you're just going to go all in. We do not have like the pro-Trump, pro-life 40 Days for Life gear. We've gotten a few requests of that, so settle down. But yeah, go to the store and get your stuff. And if you want to order What to Say When too, and also if you want to give a donation, please support this work. Help us keep up with our growth, which we are very thankful for, but does require more money. So we appreciate that as well. So be sure to rate, review, share this podcast, and fry your turkey this year. You will not regret it. Air will seem fresher. Water will taste better. God bless you. We will see you next time.